Good day everyone. Today I'm going to tackle about Rizal's trial and the trial proper.
First, we have Rizal's trial. November 20, 1896, on this day, a preliminary 5-day investigation began. He appeared before the judge advocate Colonel Francisco Olive. Documentary and testimonial evidences were presented against trial. The documentary evidences are: first, we have Antonio Luna's letter to Mariano Ponce on October 16, 1888, which showed Rizal's connection with the Filipino reform campaign in Spain. Second is Rizal's letter to his family in August 20, 1890, in which he stated that the deportations are good for they will encourage the people to hate tyranny. Third, we have Marcelo H. Del Pilar's letter to Deodato Arellano on January 7, 1889, implicating Rizal in the propaganda campaign in Spain. Fourth, we have a poem, Kundiman, allegedly written by Rizal on September 12, 1891, which mentioned that in a land of beauty, desposed reigns, and where the slaves are oppressed in the tyrant's grips. Fifth, we have Carlos Oliver's letter to an unidentified person on September 18, 1891, describing Rizal as the man to free the Philippines from the Spanish oppression. Sixth is a Masonic document dated February 9, 1892, which honored Rizal for his patriotic service. Seventh, we have Dimasalang's letter, or Rizal's pen name, to Ten Luz, Juan Zulueta's name, dated May 24, 1892, which stated that Rizal was preparing a safe refuge for Filipinos who may be persecuted by the Spanish authorities. 8. We have Dimasalang's or Rizal's letter to an unidentified committee on June 1, 1892, soliciting the aid of the committee in his patriotic work. Number 9, we have anonymous undated letter to the editor of the Hong Kong Telegraph censoring the banishment of Rizal to the Pitan. Number 10, we have Ildefonso Laurel's letter to Rizal on mentioning that Filipinos look up to Rizal as their savior. 11, Ildefonso Laurel's letter to Rizal dated September 3, 1893, informing an unidentified correspondent of the arrest and banishment of Doroteo Cortes and Ambrosio Salvador. 12, we have Marcelo H. Del Pilar's letter to Don Juan A. Tenluz or Juan Zulueta, dated on June 1, 1893, recommending the establishment of a special organization independent of Masonry to help the cause of the Filipino people. 13th, we have transcript of speech of Pinkin or Emilio Jacinto in a reunion of Katipunan on July 23, 1893, in which the following cry was uttered: "Long live the Philippines, long live liberty, long live Dr. Rizal's unity." 15th, we have transcript of speech of Tik Tik or Jose Toriano Santiago in the same Katipunan reunion, wherein the Katipuneros uttered, "Long live the Philippines, long live the eminent Dr. Rizal, death to the oppressor of the nation." 15th, we have Laong Laan's or Rizal's poem, The Talisay, in which the author made the schoolboys of the Pitan sings. November 26, 1896, after the preliminary investigation, Colonel Olive transmitted the records of the case to Governor General Ramon Blanco, who was thereupon transmitted to them to Don Nicolas de la Peña, a judge advocate general. Among Peña's recommendation for Rizal to be defended in court by an army officer and not by civilian lawyer. December 8, 1896, Rizal chose his defender from a list of 101st and 2nd lieutenants in the Spanish army. He chose Don Luis Taviel de Andrade, the first lieutenant of the artillery and brother of Lieutenant Jose Taviel de Andrade, Rizal's bodyguard in Calamba in 1887. On December 11, 1896, the information of charges was formally read to Rizal in his prison cell, with his counsel present. Rizal was accused of 3 crimes. First is rebellion, second is sedition, and third is illegal association. On December 13, 1896, Ramon Blanco was replaced by Camilo Polavieja, a more ruthless character, a governor-general of the Philippines. Dominguez submitted the papers of the Rizal case to Malacanang Palace. December 15, 1896, Rizal wrote a manifesto to his people, appealing to them to stop shedding of blood and to achieve liberties by means of education and industry. The Judge Advocate General recommended to the Governor General Polavieja that the manifesto be suppressed, and so Rizal's manifesto was not issued to the people. On December 25, 1896, it was the saddest Christmas for Jose Rizal because this was his last Christmas. Rizal wrote a letter to Lieutenant Taviel de Andrade that his case was a hopeless one. December 26, 1896 at 8 a.m., the court-martial of Rizal was held in Cuartel de España, a military building. Sealed behind a long table on an elevated dais were the 7 members of the military court in their respective uniforms. Lieutenant Colonel Jose Togores Arjona, the President, Captain Rizardo Munoz Arias, Captain Manuel Riguero, Captain Santiago Izquierdo Osorio, Captain Braulio Rodriguez Nunez, Captain Manuel Escribano, and Captain Fermin Perez Rodriguez. Cuartel de España is used to be the present site of pamantasan ng lungsod ng Maynila. Present inside the courtroom were Dr. Jose Rizal, accused, Lieutenant Taviel de Andrade, the defense counsel, Captain Rafael Dominguez, the judge advocate, Lieutenant Enrique de Alcocer, the prosecuting attorney, Josephine Bracken, some newspapermen, many Spaniards, and other spectators. Rizal sat on a bench between 2 soldiers. His arms were tied behind elbow to elbow. He wore a black woolen suit with a white vest and a black tie. He was calm and dignified in appearance. Now let's move on to trial proper. Trial proper. The trial was opened by Judge Advocate Dominguez, who explained the case against Rizal. After him, prosecuting attorney Alcocer delivered a speech summarizing the charges against Rizal and urged the court to give the verdict death. The Spanish spectators applauded noisily. After Alcocer finished his speech, defense counsel Taviel de Andrade took the floor and read the eloquent defense of Rizal and admonished the members of the military. His admonition fell on deaf ears. After the defense counsel took his seat, the court asked Rizal to say something. Rizal pleaded the supplement to his defense, but the military court remained indifferent to Rizal's pleading. Lieutenant Colonel Togores Arjona, the president, considered the trial over and ordered the hall cleared. After a short deliberation, the military court unanimously voted for Rizal's sentence of death. The Judge Advocate General Nicolas de la Peña affirmed the death verdict. On December 28, 1896, Governor General Polavieja approved the decision of the court. Marshal and ordered Rizal to be shot at the back by a firing squad on December 30, 1896 at 7 in the morning in Bagumbayan Field, now called Luneta. Rizal received visitors. Rizal was busy meeting visitors such as Jesuit priest Josephine Bracken, members of his family, and some newspapermen. His first visitor were Father Miguel Sadero Mata, the rector of Ateneo Municipal, and Father Luis Visa, a Jesuit teacher. On December 29, 1896, on 6 a.m., Rizal was read his verdict by Captain Rafael Dominguez to be shot the next day at 7 a.m. at the Luneta de Bagumbayan, now Rizal Park. 29th of December, on 7 a.m., Rizal was transferred to the chapel cell, which were adorned by religious images, to convince him to go back to Catholic fold. His first visitors were Fathers Miguel Sadera Mata and Luis Viza. On December 29, 8 a.m., Father Visa was relieved by Father Antonio Rosal, who joined Rizal for breakfast. Lieutenant Luis Taviel de Andrade joined them. 9 a.m. on December 29, Father Jose Villaclara and Stanislao March visited Rizal, followed by Spanish journalist Santiago Mataix of El Heraldo Madrid for an interview. 12 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. on December 29, Rizal was alone in his cell. He had lunch, wrote letters, and probably wrote his last poem of 14 stanzas, which he wrote in his flowing handwriting in a very small piece of paper. He hid it inside his alcohol stove, and the untitled poem was later known as Mi Ultimo Adios, or My Last Farewell. In its second stanza, he already praised the revolutionaries in the battlefield in giving their lives without doubt, without gloom. 3 p.m. on December 29, according to an account of the agent of the Cuerpo de Vigilancia guarding Rizal's cell, Rizal signed what seemed to be the document retracting his anti-Catholic writings and his membership in Masonry. This event is a contentious issue among Rizal's experts. 4 p.m. on December 29, visits of Rizal's mother, Chudora Alfonso, then Rizal's sister Trinidad, entered to get her mother, and Rizal whispered to her in English, referring to the alcohol stove. There is something inside. They were also accompanied by Narcisa, Lucia, Josefa, Maria, and son Mauricio Cruz. Leoncio Lopez Rizal, Narcisa's 11-year-old son, was not allowed to enter the cell. While leaving for their carriages, an official handed over the alcohol stove to Narcisa. After their visit, Fathers Villaclara and Stanislaw March returned to the cell, followed by Father Rosel. 6 p.m. on December 29, Rizal was visited by the Dean of Manila Cathedral, Don Silvino Lopez Tunion. The Father March left Father Villaclara to be with the two. On December 29, 8 p.m., Rizal's Last Supper, where he informed Captain Dominguez that he already forgave those who condemned him. 9:30 p.m. on December 29, Rizal was visited by the Fiscal of the Royal Audiencia of Manila, Don Gaspar Sestaño, with whom Rizal offered the best share of the cell. According to accounts, the fiscal left with a good impression of Rizal's intelligence and noble character. Now let's move on to the so-called Rizal retraction. On December 29, 1896 at 10 p.m., the draft of the retraction sent by the anti-Filipino Archbishop Bernardino Nozaleda, 1890 to 1903, was submitted by Father Balaguer to Rizal for signature, but Rizal rejected it at first because it was too long. Another shorter retraction was prepared by Father Pio P., superior of the Jesuit Society in the Philippines, which was acceptable to Rizal. Rizal wrote his own retraction, in which he abjured Masonry and his religious ideas, which were anti-Catholic. The Rizal's retraction is now a controversial document. The Rizalist scholars were anti-Mason or anti-Catholic claimed it to be forgery. On December 30, 1896 at 3 a.m., Rizal heard a mass, confessed his sins, and took Holy Communion. At 5:30 a.m., he took his last breakfast. Also, Josephine Bracken, accompanied by Josefa or Rizal's sisters, arrived. Before Josephine Bracken left, Rizal gave her a religious book, Imitation of Christ by Thomas Kempis, which was autographed, to my dear and happy wife, Josephine, December 30, 1896. 5 a.m. on December 30, teary-eyed Josephine Bracken and Josefa Rizal came. According to the testimony of the agent of the Cuerpo de Vigilancia, Josephine and Rizal were married. Josephine was gifted by Rizal with a classic Thomas A. Kempis book, Imitation of Christ, in which he inscribed, "To my dear and unhappy wife, Josephine, December 30th, 1896, Jose Rizal." They embraced for the last time. 5:30 a.m. on December 30, Rizal took his last meal, and according to stories told to Narcisa by Lieutenant Luis Taviel de Andrade, Rizal threw some eggs in the corner of a cell for the poor rats. Let them have their fiestas too. Rizal also wrote to his family and to his brother.